Richard Atelier is easily one of the most beautiful and highly anticipated fantasy adaptations in recent years. Fans universally assumed it was completely unanimatable. It was the kind of project where you knew any studio trying to adapt it would crash and burn under pressure. A show meant to come down and show us mortals what a modern fantasy anime could really be. So, how hard did it hit when it dropped? It was freaking bonkers. As you can imagine, it's taken the community by storm, but with all the hype came a very different kind of anxiety. After the first trailer dropped, the doubters got together, poured thousands of man hours to construct the perfect airtight critique, entirely certain that a studio like Bug Films was biting off more than it could chew. So, did the anime actually live up to the massive expectations it built, or was Richard Atelier a massive flop? Now, it's no secret that I fucking love magic. I love riches, and anything that has to do with the spell book, count me in. I especially love this whole new wave of fantasy anime making a comeback. Richard Atelier was supposed to be one of the shows proving fantasy isn't dead, making everything the genre has done before and actually doing something with it. You could be forgiven for getting a slight feeling of deja vu, watching a curious girl who dreams of doing the one thing she's told she was never born to do. But then she spies on a witch and realizes the secret to magic looks exactly like the ones in a picture book she bought from a stranger years ago. She then copies a spell and accidentally petrifies her own mother with forbidden magic. But instead of having her memories erased like everyone else who finds out the truth, she gets taken in as an apprentice by a powerful witch to track down the people who gave her the book and find a way to save her mom. Then we find out the bigger truth that humans used to know about magic until it caused so much destruction that the ruling witches erased it from memory, leaving only a few with the secrets. Built an entire shadow police force to make sure nobody ever finds out again. Meanwhile, there's a rebel faction of witches fighting to expose everything and give magic back to the world. And that doesn't even cover the half of it. Wizard Atelier is a typical cozy fantasy anime in the same way that Wizard of Oz is a wholesome road trip movie about a girl and her dog. It is dark, psychological, and claustrophobic. It is a dystopian nightmare dressed up as a fairy tale. It pushes the edge of what it means to be a whimsical magic story in the first place. When we first meet Coco, she's what you would call an obsessed girl. Because of her birth status, she spends her days sewing clothes for other people, completely drowned in a longing for a magical life she's explicitly banned from ever touching. She's a total outsider looking through the window, like a kid staring at the luxury storefront she can never afford. But this immediately sets the tone for what kind of world this is. Cinderella, the Chronicles of Narnia, Peter Pan. In most classic fantasy stories, being a regular human is just a temporary phase before you get swept away into paradise. Classic fantasy protagonists have always been about that pure, passive Sigma life, patiently waiting for a magical prophecy or a chosen one bloodline to suddenly save them. Everything that Coco isn't. She doesn't wait around for an invitation. Her obsession is so intense that the second she sees an opportunity, she actively plays corporate spy, copies a secret ritual, and accidentally blows her life up in flames. She didn't choose this magical life. She forced her way into it out of pure, desperate curiosity, and now she's just trying to survive the consequences. But that is exactly what sets her apart and makes her intriguing. Everyone in Richard Atelier completely stands out from the typical characters you see. And I'm not talking about the usual anime way. Sometimes you watch these fantasy shows and the magic system feels like a video game cheat code. When the characters get backed into a corner, the solution is always the same. They scream really loud and get a massive unearned power up, while the villain just stands there waiting patiently for them to finish. It's the standard copy paste blueprint we've all gotten accustomed to, where the laws of physics and logic are thrown out the window. In this world, talent and realistic problem solving actually matter. Magic is literally drained under pressure. If your hand shakes, if the ink runs out, if you miscalculate even a little, the spell fails. Like when the kids get trapped in the dragon's labyrinth, you feel the weight of the situation. They can't just summon a giant fireball to blast their way out. They have to think entirely on their feet, treating magic like a theoretical math equation instead of a mindless, flashy battle. And when they realize they can't fight the beast head on, they combine their limited knowledge to engineer a massive cushion cloud to safely trap the dragon. Richard Atelier could be a stressed out college engineering documentary and it will still work. It's like watching a group project where the deadline is in 5 minutes, but if you misplace even a decimal point, a lizard eats you alive. Up until this point, you're completely charmed by the beautiful world building. You let your guard down and think, okay, it's a fantasy show about young apprentices. Nothing truly devastating is going to happen. But you quickly realize how naive that is. The rogue faction in this world is completely unhinged. They don't play by the rules and they don't care who gets caught in the crossfire. They're unpredictable, predatory, and brutally efficient. But when the whiplash hits and the official authorities arrive, you realize the so-called good guys might be even more terrifying in their own way. You don't know who to trust anymore. More questions pile up while almost nothing gets answered. You're left realizing that everything you thought you knew or you understood about this society was a complete illusion. Now, I'm not usually the type to obsess over a creator or jump straight to the hype train before the show even drops. But separate from all that, the actual execution of the anime adaptation makes it really hard to look away. The more episode I watched, the faster I found myself smashing the next button. I'll finish one and immediately be like, alright, what happens now? And my only real complaint, if you can even call it that, is that it feels like we've barely just even started. 12th episode feels brazenly short for the massive high stakes world this season has just set up, which leaves a pretty massive temptation sitting right there. When a show ends and leaves you hanging like that, your first instinct is to just go grab the manga and find out what happens next. But doing that completely changes how you look at the anime. The manga is built on this hyper specific hand-drawn aesthetic that feels almost impossible to bring to screen. But what the adaptation loses in the static page layout, it makes up for by leaning entirely into its own strength. Instead, they leaned into soft textured backgrounds and cinematic lighting that makes the environment feel fluid and breathing. And because everything looks so warm and inviting, the heavier moments hit harder when they come. I mean, just look at a sequence like this. I love how the animation team handles high level spellcasting. They don't just slap on glowing particles, you literally watch the moisture and clouds condense, gaining real weight and momentum frame by frame until it forms this massive roaring entity. There are no lazy camera angles, no throwaway frames, no shortcuts. The team clearly put a lot of thought into how every element interacts with the world. And honestly, the animation in Richard Atelier is just on another level. It's not even just the big flashy moments, it's the way they handle all the little quiet details, the way the fabric moves, the fluid hand-drawn magic, the way everything feels alive on screen. The whole show just looks breathtaking from start to finish. Thank you for watching my video all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.